Enemies underestimated the princess and paid the ultimate price. The cold, quiet beauty of space always fascinated her, yet tonight there was a tension that she could not ignore. The Avalese colony, her home, had prospered quietly for generations, but now rumors reached them that the Vorlons, a proud and dominant alien species, were turning their attention toward human settlements. They thought humans were weak, inexperienced, and easy to overpower. They had no idea how wrong they were. Alara was young, only 22 by human years, and many around her had doubted her ability to lead. She had been trained in diplomacy, strategy, and science, but the whispers followed her wherever she went. Too young, some said. Too idealistic, others claimed. But Alara had learned early on that true strength was not always visible on the surface. She had seen humans accomplish incredible things, even when facing far larger and stronger species. She believed that patience, observation, and intelligence were the quiet weapons that would keep her people safe, and perhaps surprise anyone foolish enough to underestimate them. Her mind wandered to the council meeting earlier that day. The chamber had been filled with advisors, each one offering opinions about how to respond to the Vorlon threat. Many suggested showing power, launching a fleet in a display that could intimidate the aliens. Others argued for hiding, keeping the humans isolated and avoiding attention. Alara had listened quietly, taking notes, and then she had spoken. "We cannot underestimate them," she had said softly, "and we cannot let fear guide us. They may see us as weak, but they do not know us. Humans have a history of turning challenges into opportunities. We must be smart, we must be prepared, and most importantly, we must be ourselves." Her words had drawn polite nods from some, skeptical frowns from others, and a few astonished glances. She knew that many were still unsure of her, but she did not need immediate approval. Leadership was not about being liked. It was about seeing clearly, acting wisely, and guiding others even when they doubted you. Now, standing before the stars, Alara thought about her people. Humans were adaptable, curious, and resilient. They thrived in environments where others struggled. Their colonies on Avalese had endured natural storms, unpredictable seasons, and the occasional space anomaly, all through teamwork and innovation. The Vorlons, by contrast, relied on brute strength, intimidation, and overconfidence. They were dangerous if underestimated, but not invincible. Alara knew that knowledge, patience, and careful planning could turn what others saw as weaknesses into powerful advantages. The ship's quiet hum shifted slightly as the crew moved about their duties. Alara had always been interested in technology and strategy, and she often spent time with engineers and pilots, learning the intricacies of their equipment. Today, she had studied the star maps, identifying patterns in nearby sectors. The Vorlons were known for their predictable patrols and methods. If humans paid close attention, they could anticipate movements and respond before an attack or a diplomatic challenge ever occurred. Alara's attention returned to the maps. She traced a path with her finger along the digital display, imagining how a fleet might approach. She noted natural gravitational fields, asteroid belts, and space anomalies that could be used to an advantage. Her eyes shone with excitement as she considered possibilities. Humans had always found ways to thrive in difficult situations, and this challenge was no different. The Vorlons had assumed they were superior, but Alara believed that humans had something the aliens could never replicate: creativity, ingenuity, and the courage to act thoughtfully when others rushed recklessly. A soft chime drew her attention. It was Lyran, her personal aide and closest friend since childhood. Lyran had joined the ship's crew not long ago, and he was still learning to understand Alara's quiet brilliance. Unlike many who judged her by age, he respected her mind and instincts. "Princess," Lyran said, approaching with a tablet in hand. "Sensors have detected unusual activity near the edge of the sector. Nothing aggressive yet, but it could be scouts." Alara leaned over the tablet, studying the readings. Small, almost imperceptible blips moved in a formation that suggested observation rather than attack. Her mind raced through possibilities. The Vorlons were likely testing the humans' response, looking for weaknesses. Alara did not panic. Instead, she considered the patterns and timing. If the aliens were studying Avalies, humans could study them back. Prepare a subtle probe, she instructed. Nothing overt, just enough to learn who they are, how they move, and what they expect. We observe first, then decide our response. Lyran hesitated. Wouldn't they notice? They would notice if we overreact, Alara replied calmly. But humans are observant, patient, and creative. Our job is to see without being seen. That is often stronger than confrontation. For hours, Alara and her team monitored the movements. They traced paths, calculated distances, and cross-referenced with previous Vorlon behaviors. She even consulted the ship's AI, asking questions not only about tactics but about psychology. Vorlons were proud, confident, and often impatient. They underestimated anyone who moved deliberately, thinking careful planning was indecision. Humans, however, had patience as a strength. As the day passed, Alara noticed patterns that were invisible to most observers. The Vorlons approached closer to certain colonies than others, likely expecting fear or compliance. They sent signals and probes in predictable intervals. Every movement revealed information about their priorities, their weaknesses, and most importantly, their assumptions about humans. Alara smiled faintly. The more she studied, the clearer it became. The Vorlons had already made their biggest mistake. They had assumed she was a princess to be intimidated, that humans were weak, and that cleverness would not match strength. They had not considered that humans could think in ways aliens did not anticipate, that strategy and patience could outweigh size and force. As night fell on Avalies, Alara walked along the deck, feeling the ship's gentle vibrations. Her thoughts returned to the council and the advisors who doubted her. Many leaders in history had faced skepticism, yet history had also shown that true visionaries often turned doubt into opportunity. Alara knew that what she did next could set the stage for more than just a defense. It could prove to the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. She recalled the words of her mother, the late Queen Selena, who had led Avalies with wisdom and grace. Strength, her mother had said, is not always shown in battle. It is shown in patience, clarity, and courage when others cannot see the path. Alara felt that clarity now. The Vorlons' arrogance was their blind spot. Their assumption that humans were simple or weak would be the very reason they underestimated what humanity could accomplish. The Aurora continued to drift silently through the void, a small but determined symbol of human ingenuity. Alara moved to her command chair, surrounded by holographic displays of stars, fleets, and colonies. Her mind was alive with plans, not aggressive strikes, but strategies, observation methods, and creative solutions that could protect her people and reveal human potential. Finally, she allowed herself a small smile. For once, the future felt clear, even in the vast uncertainty of space. Humans had survived and thrived in countless challenges before. And now, a young princess with careful observation, sharp intellect, and unshakable patience would ensure that anyone who doubted humanity would soon discover their greatest mistake. Princess Alara did not need weapons to prove her strength. She had her mind, her people, and the quiet brilliance of human ingenuity. And that, she knew, could change the course of the galaxy. As she looked once more through the observation window, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, reflecting a promise. Humans were not what others expected. And when the time came, those who underestimated them would learn that mistake too late. The Aurora had drifted through the outer edge of the Zyran expanse for several cycles, scanning, observing, and analyzing every movement of the Vorlon scouts. Princess Alara moved among the crew with quiet purpose, her presence unassuming but commanding. The Vorlons, with their sleek gray ships and confident patterns, had assumed humans would react with fear or hesitation. They had not anticipated the careful, calculated approach the young princess had orchestrated. Alara's plan was not to confront the aliens directly. She believed confrontation came after understanding. First, she needed to gather intelligence, study their tactics, and find the hidden gaps in their assumptions. Humans had a history of achieving what others thought impossible by using creativity instead of strength, patience instead of impulse, and observation instead of recklessness. In the ship's observation room, Alara and Lyran worked side by side. Holographic screens projected Vorlon patrol paths, energy fluctuations, and movement patterns. Each blip of the Vorlon fleet was a piece of a puzzle. While some of the crew fidgeted, unsure how to respond, Alara was calm. Her mind worked quickly, connecting information, noting inconsistencies, and predicting behavior. "They are sending probes toward the outer colonies again," Lyran noted, his finger pointing to a blinking marker. "It is almost as if they are testing our response." Alara nodded. "Exactly, and every probe tells us more than they realize. Watch closely, see how they approach the colonies. Notice the timing and the formation. They expect us to panic or overreact, but we will do neither. Humans have patience as a strength. We learn first, act second." Lyran studied her carefully. "Princess, do you think they will try something more aggressive if we do not react?" Alara considered the question. "Perhaps, but the best defense is understanding. If we know their patterns, we can guide our response. Sometimes the right action is inaction until the moment becomes ours." Over the next hours, they observed and recorded the Vorlons' every movement. The aliens were proud, meticulous, and slightly arrogant in their assumptions. They believed humans would always act in predictable, fearful ways. What they did not know was that the humans of Aveles had long practiced problem-solving in conditions far more complex than any alien battle scenario. Their cities were designed to adapt to natural disasters. Their agriculture thrived under erratic weather, and their engineers had built machines capable of adjusting to unpredictable environments. Adaptability was second nature. Alara smiled quietly to herself as she noticed patterns the Vorlons overlooked. One patrol always adjusted its speed slightly when approaching asteroid clusters, likely to avoid collision. Another fleet slowed near gravity anomalies, not realizing that humans could use these areas to hide or move undetected. The aliens' confidence was their weakness. Their reliance on brute tactics limited their creativity. By mid-cycle, Alara had a plan. It was not a battle plan, nor a plan for direct confrontation. It was a strategy to show humans ingenuity and careful observation could protect the colony and reveal the Vorlons' errors without violence. She called a meeting with the key officers of the Aurora, including engineers, scientists, and pilots. "Listen carefully," she began. "The Vorlons think humans are weak, predictable, and impulsive. That is their mistake. We will observe them, learn from them, and prepare a system that guides our responses without aggression. We will use intelligence, creativity, and collaboration. Our goal is not to fight, but to show strength through planning, patience, and human ingenuity." Some officers exchanged nervous glances. The idea of acting without aggression seemed unusual, especially against a species so dominant. But Alara's calm confidence was infectious. She continued, explaining how the colony's adaptive drones could mimic Vorlon movements, protect key installations, and gather information about their technology without direct confrontation. "These drones," she explained, "will not attack. They will observe, guide, and ensure safety. We will turn their assumptions against them. Every probe they send, every maneuver they attempt will teach us something new. And when the time comes, humans will be ready, not with violence but with intelligence and strategy." The officers nodded slowly, understanding the brilliance in her plan. Humans had survived for generations because they could adapt and think creatively. The Vorlons had strength, yes, but humans had strategy, insight, and collaboration. Alara had given them a method to turn apparent weakness into unmatched strength. As the Aurora drifted closer to the outer colonies, the first Vorlon probe approached. It was sleek, fast, and designed to intimidate. Crew members held their breath as it entered sensor range. Most would have panicked, ready to react with force. But Alara remained calm. She watched the probes approach and signaled the drones. Soft lights activated along the colony's perimeter, guiding the drones to positions that mirrored the Vorlon probe's movements. They did not engage, attack, or respond aggressively. Instead, they moved with precision, protecting the colony and gathering information. The probe's sensors detected the humans' calm and methodical coordination. It recorded patterns that seemed unpredictable, confusing even to the advanced Vorlon systems. From the observation room, Alara noted every response, every adjustment. The Vorlons believed they were testing humans, but in reality they were being observed, analyzed, and anticipated at every step. It was a silent contest of intelligence rather than power. Later, when the probe withdrew, the crew celebrated quietly. No one had been harmed. No aggressive action had been needed, and yet the humans had proven their capability. Lyran approached Alara, his face filled with awe. "Princess, I don't think they expected us to react like that. They must be confused." Alara smiled softly. "Exactly. Confusion can be a powerful tool when it is combined with patience and observation. Humans do not always have the largest ships, the strongest weapons, or the loudest presence. But we have something equally important: the ability to think, adapt, and act with intelligence when others cannot see the path clearly." The following cycles brought more probes, each testing a different colony or attempting a different tactic. The humans responded in kind, guiding drones, adjusting sensor networks, and studying the Vorlons' patterns. With each encounter, humans learned more, while the Vorlons remained unaware of the depth of observation they were under. They continued to assume superiority, not realizing that their arrogance was their blind spot. Meanwhile, Alara continued her personal study of Vorlon behavior. She spent hours in the ship's library, reviewing historical records, communications, and strategic manuals. She noticed subtle tendencies. A Vorlon leader often repeated certain phrases, revealing expectations. Their fleets moved faster when confident but hesitated when uncertain. Their technology was powerful but predictable in its limitations. Every small detail was a piece of the larger puzzle. Alara also spent time with her people, talking to engineers, scientists, and pilots. She encouraged creative solutions, asking questions that challenged conventional thinking. "How might we use natural anomalies to our advantage?" she would ask. "If a Vorlon assumes we are afraid, how might we turn that assumption into an opportunity?" Her questions inspired innovation. The crew began to see that their princess was not merely a figurehead, but a brilliant strategist who valued intellect over force. The humans' patience and clever responses began to change the dynamic subtly. Small incidents, like guiding a probe away from a vital colony or predicting a Vorlon scout's maneuver, were quietly noted in Vorlon records. They did not recognize the significance. They continued to underestimate, to assume weakness. And that was precisely the advantage humans had been waiting for. One day, Alara called a full crew meeting. "We are learning more than ever," she said. "The Vorlons do not realize we are observing, studying, and adapting. They believe they control the game. Soon, we will show them that intelligence, creativity, and patience can outmatch even the most aggressive assumptions. But remember, this is not about fighting. It is about demonstrating what humans can do when they work together, when they think carefully, and when they refuse to be underestimated." Her words inspired hope and confidence. Humans had faced challenges before, often against stronger forces, and had survived because they used what others overlooked: ingenuity, resilience, and cooperation. Alara's strategy was an extension of that heritage, a way to protect her people and demonstrate humanity's strength in a way the Vorlons could not ignore. As another Vorlon probe approached that evening, the crew of the Aurora moved with quiet efficiency. Drones activated, sensors tracked every movement, and every adjustment was logged and analyzed. The probe's approach was methodical, but the humans were always one step ahead, not through aggression, but through observation and planning. The Vorlons were puzzled. Their sensors recorded unexpected patterns, movements they could not predict, and adjustments that defied logic from their perspective. They assumed the humans would panic, that they would act without strategy, but every encounter proved the opposite. Humans were calm, intelligent, and adaptable. Watching from the observation deck, Alara allowed herself a quiet moment of satisfaction. She did not revel in the aliens' confusion. Instead, she felt proud of her people. Humans had turned their patience into power, their intelligence into a shield, and their creativity into a demonstration of capability. They had acted with courage, not through violence but through understanding and innovation. Lyran joined her, leaning on the railing. "Princess, do you think they are beginning to understand?" Alara shook her head slightly, smiling. "Not yet. That is the beauty of it. They still underestimate us. They still believe humans are easy to intimidate. But that will change, and when it does, they will remember this lesson for a long time. We are not strong in the way they expect. We are strong in ways they cannot measure: intelligence, cooperation, and perseverance." The stars outside seemed to glow a little brighter, as if acknowledging her words. The Aurora moved silently through the sector, a small symbol of human ingenuity in a vast and uncertain galaxy. Princess Alara knew that the coming days would test her plans further, but she was ready. The humans of Avalis had survived countless challenges. Now, under her careful guidance, they would face the proud Vorlons and reveal that patience, intelligence, and creativity could outmatch strength and arrogance. And in that quiet, steady understanding, humanity's true power began to shine, unexpected, unassuming, and entirely unstoppable. Days had passed since the first Vorlon probes had approached the human colonies. Each encounter had been carefully observed, studied, and used to improve the humans' responses. Princess Alara had spent every cycle analyzing, planning, and refining strategies, ensuring that the humans of Avalis were ready for whatever the Vorlons might attempt next. What had begun as cautious observation had grown into a quiet display of human ingenuity, a series of movements that the Vorlons could not predict, understand, or control. Alara stood in the central command room of the Aurora, reviewing the latest data from the drones scattered across the sector. Each drone had a specialized function. Some monitored the Vorlon movements, some protected sensitive installations, and others simulated human activity to confuse sensors. The Vorlons, confident in their assumptions, had not realized that every step they took was being cataloged and analyzed by the humans. "They've increased their patrols," Lyran reported, tapping a holographic display. "They seem to think we are vulnerable. They are sending multiple formations toward the colonies simultaneously." Alara's eyes narrowed slightly as she studied the display. "Exactly what we expected. They believe that speed and strength will overwhelm us. What they do not realize is that humans are precise, patient, and adaptable. We will not panic. We will guide them without ever confronting them aggressively. Let them assume control. We will show them that intelligence can outmatch brute force." The crew moved with a quiet, focused energy. Engineers adjusted the drones' flight paths, scientists analyzed energy patterns, and pilots coordinated sensor networks. Alara had taught them to think creatively, to anticipate what the Vorlons assumed humans could not see. Every action was deliberate, every response measured. The humans were no longer reacting. They were orchestrating a demonstration of strategic brilliance. As the Vorlon formations approached, the first signs of confusion appeared. Their probes moved confidently, expecting human panic or disorganization, but the drones adjusted in ways that no Vorlon technology could predict. They guided the probes safely around colonies, redirected them with subtle energy fields, and mirrored movements to make the aliens believe the humans were larger and more numerous than they were. Alara watched, her hands lightly resting on the console. "Notice how they hesitate here," she said, pointing to a cluster of blips. "They expected a straightforward response. Instead, we've introduced variables they cannot predict. Their assumptions are failing, and that gives us an advantage." Lyran could hardly hide his excitement. "Princess, this is incredible. They are changing their formation. They look uncertain." "Yes," Alara replied, "and we do not need them to know we are orchestrating it. Let them assume chaos. We control every move, every decision." Humans have turned their patience into power and their intelligence into influence. This is how strength truly works. Hours passed as the Vorlons continued to probe and test. Each time, the humans responded with creativity and calm precision. Drones moved silently, energy fields redirected, sensor networks predicted movements, and the colonies remained untouched and secure. The Vorlons' assumptions about weakness were crumbling, even if they did not yet realize it. Finally, Alara called a strategic council with her key officers. "We have reached a turning point," she said. "The Vorlons believe they are in control, but every probe they send has been analyzed. We have learned their patterns, their reactions, and their expectations. Soon, we will show them something they did not expect, that human ingenuity can guide events without the need for conflict." The officers nodded, understanding her vision. Humans had survived and thrived not by brute force, but through intelligence, adaptability, and collaboration. This was their greatest advantage. Alara's plan was to reveal it in a way that could not be ignored. That night, as the Aurora drifted near a particularly large Vorlon fleet, Alara activated the next phase of her plan. Drones scattered across the outer colonies began to move in coordinated patterns designed to simulate a human fleet far larger than it actually was. Energy fields created subtle illusions on Vorlon sensors, and holographic signals suggested movements that were clever, deliberate, and seemingly unpredictable. The Vorlons watched, initially confident, but then hesitation crept into their communications. Their sensors could not reconcile what they were seeing. The humans had created an intricate display of intelligence, strategy, and coordination that suggested far greater resources than were actually present. Each adjustment was subtle, yet it communicated one unmistakable message. Humans were not what the Vorlons expected. From the observation deck of the Aurora, Alara observed the results. Her eyes sparkled with quiet pride. "They think they are controlling the game," she said softly to Lyran. "But every step they take is anticipated, analyzed, and turned into information. They cannot predict humans because humans think differently. That is our advantage." The Vorlons tried to adjust, but their reliance on speed and predictable tactics became their limitation. Every probe, every minor maneuver, revealed more about their expectations and weaknesses. Alara and her crew logged everything, refining their systems further. Humans had transformed observation into influence without ever firing a shot or causing harm. Lyran shook his head in amazement. "Princess, they must be confused beyond belief. They expected an easy demonstration of weakness, and instead, this." "Yes," Alara replied, her voice steady. "And this is just the beginning. When the time comes, we will show them that intelligence, collaboration, and creativity are far stronger than arrogance and size. Humans are patient, adaptable, and clever. That is our strength." Over the next cycles, the Vorlons attempted increasingly complex maneuvers, sending formations that would have overwhelmed a less prepared species. Each time, the humans responded not with force, but with thoughtful adjustments, guiding probes safely, redirecting energy flows, and simulating larger fleets through clever manipulation of sensors and drones. Alara's mind never rested. She anticipated every possibility, prepared for every contingency. The humans' calm, deliberate approach was a mirror to the Vorlons' assumptions, revealing their arrogance and overconfidence at every step. The young princess, who many had doubted, had orchestrated a demonstration of human capability that would echo far beyond this sector. The Vorlons began to communicate among themselves with increasing urgency. "Something is wrong," one of their leaders stated. "Our sensors show more activity than expected. They are anticipating us." "They cannot be predicting us," another replied, disbelief in their tone. "It is impossible. They are just humans." "Yes," the first said. "But every probe, every formation, it is as if they know what we will do next." "How?" Alara overheard none of this, of course, but the subtle changes in Vorlon movement told her everything. They were unsettled, and that was the intention. Humans were demonstrating power in a way that required no weapons, no destruction, only intelligence, patience, and collaboration. One day, Alara called the crew to the central observation room. "We have shown them that humans are not predictable," she began. "Now it is time to demonstrate creativity and initiative. The next probe they send will encounter a coordinated human response that reflects everything we have learned about them. It will show our ingenuity in a way they cannot ignore." The crew worked with quiet determination, fine-tuning drone movements, sensor projections, and communication patterns. Each adjustment was calculated to demonstrate humans' ability to adapt, guide, and influence without resorting to aggression. The moment was approaching when the Vorlons' assumptions would be shattered completely. When the probe arrived, it encountered a complex, synchronized display unlike anything the Vorlons had expected. Drones moved with precision, energy fields created subtle obstacles, and sensor feedback suggested multiple human fleets operating in perfect coordination. The aliens paused, confused and hesitant, unable to reconcile their expectations with the reality of human ingenuity. Alara watched, her hands resting lightly on the console. "Notice the hesitation," she said to Lyran. "They assumed strength meant speed, size, and aggression. Humans have turned observation into action, patience into strategy, and intelligence into influence. This is how we demonstrate strength without conflict." The Vorlons withdrew slightly, unsure how to respond. Their pride made them hesitate, and that hesitation revealed more than any confrontation could. Humans had turned the assumptions of a superior species into a lesson in capability, creativity, and cooperation. As the day ended, the crew of the Aurora quietly celebrated. No one had fired a shot, no one had been harmed, and yet humans had revealed their strength in a way that could not be ignored. Princess Alara smiled, proud of her people and their ingenuity. Humans had shown that patience, intelligence, and collaboration were powerful tools the Vorlons had failed to anticipate. Alara turned to Lyran. "They will not see us as weak any longer. And when the time comes, we will show them that humans are capable of far more than they ever imagined. Not through violence, but through thought, creativity, and unity. That is our greatest strength." The stars outside the Aurora seemed to shimmer as if in agreement. In the quiet confidence of the young princess and her people, humanity had demonstrated that the greatest power was not always the loudest or strongest. Sometimes it was the cleverest, the patient, and the most observant. And in that moment, the galaxy began to see humans not as fragile or weak, but as a species capable of remarkable ingenuity and unshakable calm in the face of arrogance. The Vorlons had underestimated them, and the lesson was only beginning. The Aurora moved gracefully through the edge of the Zyran expanse, its systems humming quietly, a reflection of the humans' careful planning and precision. Princess Alara stood on the observation deck, watching the distant Vorlon fleet slowly maneuver in patterns that now showed hesitation rather than confidence. For days, humans had responded to probes and maneuvers not with aggression, but with intelligence, creativity, and patient observation. Each encounter had built a story of human capability, one the Vorlons could no longer dismiss. Alara thought back to the first moments she had taken command in this situation. Many had doubted her ability to lead. They had assumed her youth and polite demeanor would make her a target, and that humans would act impulsively under pressure. Yet every doubt had been turned into an advantage. Through careful observation, patience, and creative thinking, she had demonstrated that humans were not what the galaxy assumed. She smiled softly to herself. Sometimes the greatest power was invisible until revealed with intention. Lyran joined her quietly, leaning on the railing. "Princess, the Vorlons, they seem confused. I think they finally realize we are not weak." Alara nodded. "They are beginning to understand, but they still do not grasp the full extent of human capability. They only see fragments, the careful movements, the intelligence, the coordination. They do not yet realize that humans can think beyond the predictable, act beyond expectation, and adapt in ways no one anticipates." The Vorlons had sent their largest probe yet, a sophisticated formation meant to challenge human defenses and force a response. The probe moved with elegance, but every aspect of its behavior was mapped, anticipated, and mirrored by human systems. The drones scattered across the colonies moved in patterns that subtly guided the probe, creating the illusion of a larger fleet, safe zones, and human strategic control. "Prepare the final demonstration," Alara instructed her officers. "This is not an attack, not even a confrontation. It is a display, a demonstration of what humans are capable of when they observe, adapt, and collaborate." The crew worked with quiet intensity. Every calculation, every adjustment, every drone's movement was orchestrated to show precision and intelligence. Holographic projection suggested multiple fleets, energy patterns mirrored Vorlon maneuvers, and sensor feedback created the impression of humans thinking several steps ahead. The Vorlons had expected fear, hesitation, or a chaotic response, but instead they were confronted with clarity, coordination, and strategy. As the Vorlon formation approached the outer colonies, Alara activated the simulation. Drones moved with flawless precision, energy patterns shifted subtly, and sensor feedback suggested intelligence far beyond human numbers. The aliens paused. Their systems detected movement that they could not reconcile with their assumptions. Each probe and formation was anticipated and guided, revealing that humans were not reacting, they were orchestrating. Alara watched the screens, noting every hesitation, every adjustment the Vorlons made. "Notice how they pause here," she said to Lyran. "They assumed humans were impulsive, but we have guided them through observation and strategy. Every action is controlled, every decision measured. This is the essence of human ingenuity." Lyran's eyes widened. "Princess, they are slowing down. They are unsure what to do next." "Exactly," Alara replied calmly. "And that uncertainty is our advantage. Humans have always thrived where others act recklessly. Our patience, creativity, and collaboration turn apparent weakness into strength. The Vorlons underestimated us from the start, and now they will see what that mistake truly costs them, not in violence but in understanding." The Vorlons' communication channels buzzed with confusion. "Our sensors, they are predicting us," one leader said. "How can a species so small and so human anticipate our moves?" "They are clever," another admitted. "They are not reacting, they are guiding us. Every probe we send, it leads us exactly where they want us to go." Alara listened to the sensors and feedback. aware that the Vorlons' own observations revealed their growing respect and surprise. The aliens did not yet understand the full scope of humanity's capability, but the seeds of realization were planted. Humans had shown that strategy, intelligence, and collaboration were far stronger than assumed physical dominance. To complete the demonstration, Alara directed the drones to simulate a coordinated human fleet movement around the Vorlons' formation. The energy fields, sensor feedback, and synchronized maneuvers created the illusion of a massive, coordinated operation. The Vorlons halted completely, analyzing patterns that they could not predict, systems they could not decode, and movements that reflected intelligence beyond what they had imagined. "They are completely frozen," Lyran whispered. "They do not know what to do." Alara's gaze remained steady. "And that is exactly what we intended. Humans have revealed strength without aggression, intelligence without force, and unity without confrontation. This is our true power. And now they will begin to understand that underestimating humans is a mistake they cannot afford to repeat." The Vorlons began to communicate among themselves with growing admiration and caution. "Their coordination, it is unlike anything we have seen," one said. "We thought we were strong, but they have turned observation into power." "Yes," another replied. "We assumed they would panic, they have not. We assumed they would react with chaos, they have not. They have guided us, anticipated us, and outthought us at every step." Alara allowed herself a quiet smile. Her people had not fought, had not attacked, had not caused harm, yet they had demonstrated capabilities that could not be ignored. Humans had transformed what others saw as weakness into a symbol of strength, creativity, and strategy. The Vorlons had assumed superiority and in doing so revealed their own limitations. Later, Alara called a council meeting with her key officers. "We have reached the culmination of our strategy," she said. "The Vorlons now know that humans are patient, intelligent, and adaptable. But our work is not to humiliate or dominate, it is to demonstrate what humanity can achieve when it observes, plans, and collaborates. Let this be the message. We are not weak, we are capable. And we will continue to thrive wherever we are challenged, not through force, but through thought, creativity, and unity." The officers nodded, inspired. Humans had survived countless challenges, often against species stronger in size and technology. They had done so not through aggression, but through ingenuity and collaboration. Princess Alara had guided them to show that same strength in a way that left the Vorlons respectful, cautious, and aware that humans could never be underestimated again. Over the following cycles, the Vorlons reduced their probing, choosing to communicate openly and cautiously rather than test humans further. Princess Alara engaged them diplomatically, discussing trade, cooperation, and exploration. The Vorlons, now aware of humans' true capability, listened attentively. They treated Avelis with newfound respect, no longer assuming weakness, no longer expecting fear. Alara's calm, deliberate leadership and the humans' coordinated, intelligent response had changed perceptions. What began as doubt and underestimation had transformed into respect and recognition. Humans had proven that true strength was not measured by size, weapons, or aggression, but by intelligence, patience, creativity, and the ability to act together toward a common goal. One evening, as the aurora glided quietly among the stars, Alara reflected on the journey. She had not sought conflict or dominance. She had not sought to prove superiority through force. She had sought to show the galaxy what humans were capable of when they worked together, thought carefully, and acted with purpose. Lyran approached, his voice soft. "Princess, you did more than protect Avelis. You showed the Vorlons what humans are. I think the galaxy will never underestimate us again." Alara smiled, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "It is not enough that they never underestimate us. It is enough that humans now know their own capability. Strength is not just in proving others wrong. It is in understanding who we are, what we can achieve, and how we can thrive with patience, intelligence, and creativity. That is the real lesson. From the observation deck, Alara watched the distant stars, each one a reminder of how vast and full of possibility the galaxy was. Humans were small in size but immense in capability. They had faced doubt, underestimation, and expectation of weakness, and turned it into opportunity, strategy, and recognition. The Vorlons, once arrogant and dismissive, had learned a lesson in humility and respect. They would speak of humans differently now, knowing that appearances could be deceiving, and that intelligence and collaboration could outmatch force at every turn. Alara turned back to the command console, guiding the fleet through final adjustments and reviewing the data from the drones. Every movement, every interaction had been logged, analyzed, and learned from. Humans were stronger not because of weapons, but because of vision, unity, and ingenuity. That strength would endure wherever they went, whoever observed them, and whatever challenge arose. As the Aurora sailed silently into the next sector, Princess Alara felt a quiet pride. Humans had not only protected their home but had revealed a deeper truth. That underestimation was a mistake, patience was a weapon, intelligence was power, and unity was unstoppable. And in that realization, the galaxy began to see humanity as it truly was, not weak, not fragile, not to be dismissed, but clever, adaptable, patient, and capable of achievements far beyond expectation. Princess Alara knew that the Vorlons would remember this lesson. They would think twice before underestimating humans again. But more importantly, she knew that humans had discovered something even greater, their own courage, creativity, and boundless potential. The stars outside reflected the promise of future challenges and victories. The Aurora glided forward, carrying humanity's ingenuity, Alara's vision, and the certainty that wherever humans went, they would not merely survive, they would shine. And the galaxy at last began to understand the truth. Humans were not to be underestimated, for their greatest strength lay not in weapons, but in intelligence, creativity, patience, and the courage to act thoughtfully in every moment. Enemies underestimated the princess and paid the ultimate price.